This is a real headline, folks, off of a real website. Real news.
Not The Onion.
No. Black power naps. Teen Vogue article explains a new way to, quote, fight systemic racism during sleep. Discussed a Teen Vogue article arguing that black employees should be given time off for power naps as reparations for the sleep deprivation of slaves. In this clip, the panel discussed black power naps created by Fanny Sosa and Navilde Acosta. They tackle systemic racism during sleep. Sosa and Acosta claimed the idea, quote, came from an understanding that the American dream is a sleepless one. Quote, we inherited this exhaustion, Sosa said. I'm assuming Sosa's a black person. We're dealing with oh my gosh, I don't even know if I can read this out loud. Quote, we are dealing with an inheritance of sleep deprivation. Sleep deprivation was a deliberate tactic of slave owners to basically make the mind feeble. The same tactic has only evolved. Okay. All right. Apparently, we can fix racism in this country with a good old nap. I would like to ask you a question, Derek. I feel like I was very much sleep deprived in my military career. I don't know about you. I would be in favor of military reparations for veterans that were sleep deprived as a training tactic.
That you're not missing the beat there.
No,
at all.
it was meant to make our mind feeble.
Right.
This
not
ought to be
ready and prepared.
This ought to be good here. This ought to be really good. We got Rich from Huntsville on line one. Rich, bring it in here, buddy. How are you? How was your weekend, Rich?
Everything went smooth, Zach. Everything went smooth.
I'm glad to hear it, buddy.
Yeah, man. I just have a question. Why, knowing that the Jews got reparations, what's the argument against the descendants of slaves getting reparations?
Well, the concept of you like to go to the Jews for some reason, and I don't know that's.
I mean, that's the best example.
But Rich, are you going to ask me a question, and then when I try to answer it, talk over me? Or are you going to pull a Don Lemon?
You said you didn't.
Are you pulling
why,
a Don Lemon? I think it sounds like you're pulling a Don Lemon.
Why? Go ahead, Zach.
Thank you, Rich. I think I will. I think that. The argument for reparations is, I think, like Connor said, I mean, I'm sympathetic to the argument, and I understand the concept and where it comes from. I do. And Rich, I appreciate your call and your thought-provoking questions. But the idea that a group of people that didn't, like, they're paying for a crime that they didn't. I've never owned a slave personally. My family never owned slaves. We were poor. We picked cotton. That's what our family did. I've said that on the show a million times. My great grandmother worked the fields. She died years ago at the age of like 95. Like, she worked the fields with people of all color as labor, because we were just poor people. We were labor hands. And so the concept of people paying for crimes that they didn't commit to a group of people that didn't experience them, I think that's the issue. I think the issue is it's a group of people that didn't commit the crime paying back a group of people that didn't experience the crime. That sits a little bit weird with me. I don't know.
Like, I just looked it up, and they're talking about payments to survivors of the Holocaust. Those are people who literally had their wealth, their property, their livelihood stolen from them by a state.
Which brings me, I mentioned a podcast earlier about Isidore Banks. Isidore Banks was a wealthy black landowner in Mississippi in Arkansas, and he was lynched and killed so that corrupt white people could take his what is now multiple millions of dollars worth of land. There were in Arkansas was a beacon of hope for black people, believe it or not, in the Jim Crow South. It was a place that black people were allowed to own property, and in the Mississippi Delta, that land is so fertile. And I mean, they were so Isidore Banks actually set up a co-opt black cotton gin. All the owners were black, and all the white people, like the white farmers in town, loved working with Isidore because he was a heck of a businessman, and he was. But there was a sheriff in town that didn't like the fact that there was a black man wielding power, and he was murdered for his land. His land was stolen from him, and his family was left with absolutely nothing. Wow. The descendants of his family are poor, just broke people that are broke because a crime was committed against. I would have no problem with an evaluation, an investigation, a inquiry into whether or not that land was truly stolen from this man because he was black and given to rich, wealthy white people, and their family being potentially compensated for that. That would be a specific situation where, in fact, it's happened.
You have a victim.
You have a crime. And so I think the concept of sleep as a form of reparations for black sleeplessness during slavery is absurdity. I think the idea of reparations in and of itself is a very slippery slope. We got Jay on line 3. Jay, bring it in here. What you got?
Yeah, Zach. I would say I'm a black conservative. Not necessarily. I would say independent conservative. But, the whole thing of reparations, I understand the plea for white people that you didn't own slaves and things of that nature. Completely understandable. And I think for most, the whole Black Lives Matter movement and things, I think is employed by the far left, deep state, whatever you want to call it, to continue the divide and conquer method. Because once again, I would say that black people, that we have the nation's ear, but there's no conversation being had.
And I think I think that's exactly. I love what you're saying, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I did want to add, I think that what you're saying is the conversation that needs to be had, and I would even say that, I've said on the show 100 times, I want to have the conversation. I've been on the record as saying I grew up in the majority my entire life. I grew up white, middle class. I don't understand what it's like to be black in this country, and I want to understand that. I'm a Christian first and foremost, and so I want to understand what challenges have faced the black community in this country, because if we're being honest with ourselves, it has been a challenge at times. But the problem is, a conversation's not what's being sought. No one is seeking a real conversation. They're pushing an agenda. So how do we get past that and move to the point where we can actually, guys like you and guys like me, we can sit down, you're black, I'm white, we can have a conversation, we can figure it out, and we can make a plan to move forward?
Well, I think it starts with conversations like this, like just being honest. I work in the construction industry, which, predominantly is a white, as far, especially in the management area, is a white industry. I'm the only black guy at my job, but, I push those conversations. And for the most part, people would not initiate them, especially with me being the only black guy. They're fearful of saying something. But like I said, I know politics is a touchy subject, but we're kind of openly talk about it. So I'm like this: if you know my heart and you know me as a person, I'm one of those people that you can have a discussion, we can agree to disagree, but I'm going to hear you.
Right.
But you will never understand where I'm coming from if we never have this conversation. And I think that's what, the powers that be, as long as they can keep us from having the conversation, as long as they can keep us separated, it's simple tactics. They're winning.
Jay, I have a question. If I were willing to have you come into the studio and sit down with me and have a conversation one morning, would you be open to it?
Oh, most definitely, man.
All right, I'm going to put you on hold and have Dallas get your phone number, and then I will reach out to you after the show's over today, and I would love to have you come in and have that conversation, because I think it is a conversation that needs to be had. So hang on, Jay. Dallas is going to get your phone number here in a minute, and we will set up a time for you to come and join us. You're listening to Hometown Heartbeat on WVNN. I'm your big, beautiful, bearded host, thehometownheartbeat.com, thehometownheartbeat.com. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Hometown Heartbeat.